Anō mai hoki mai anō e te iwi. Welcome back to the third part of our afternoon. Just before we get started, there's a couple of things we want to go over because we do see that we have a few new faces in the room with us now. But physically here we have, well, myself, Fred Wilson, one of the co-facilitators today, Miranda O'Connell, who's ready to leave by the look of it.
Cassidy
jumping
O'Connell,
around.
actually.
Oh, apologies. Miranda Cassidy O'Connell to my right. Mark Russell, our tech guru. We have Karis in here as the one of the
fish.
one of our ika, as you can see. And we have Christine Rahadi here as well, helping with timekeeping. I'll hand it over to Miranda to give a, and before I hand it over to Miranda to get us started, Q&A function for this afternoon. We don't have enough time to answer the questions live, but you can type in your questions. We do ask that you identify who the question is for at the beginning of your question, and then those presenters can type out their answers back to you throughout the afternoon. Just a quick reminder that this session is being recorded and will be made available on the Waiheke Marine Project website down the bottom there. Over to you, Miranda.
Kia ora, Fred. Thank you very much. And for those who have already logged on to the previous two webinars, apologies, and I plead your grace to be able to hear a bit of a repeat, but we've noticed that we've got some new people who've dialed on. And of course, when people are going to watch these things on record, they want to be able to hear the same information. So a big ngā mihi, kia koutou for all the presenters for this webinar, for all of you watching, for all of you who are going to be watching in a record, and very much, as this slide is showing, to our sponsors and our supporters that have got the Waiheke Marine Project, the movement of caring for the marine environment to this point so far. And you'll see the diversity of sponsors there, and we're incredibly thankful and look forward to continuation with a whole lot more. Wouldn't it be cool to have a slide of sponsors that you can't see any background? You know, it's just absolutely full. And you'll notice there that there's an endorsement from the Hauraki Golf Forum. And for those who hooked on to the last session, the Hauraki Golf Forum fully endorsed the Waiheke Marine Project and its 9 commitments, which we're very excited about because it means we're on the right track. And probably a little extra comment on that when the forum did give that endorsement, they were really excited by the how we are going about things here with protecting and regenerating the marine environment, that we're recognizing it's complex, we're recognizing we have a lot of different ideas, and it's the way we collaborate and the way we can be committed to our Te Tiriti partnership. So just a wee recap, almost 7 months ago, from the 30th of October to the 1st of November, 76 amazing people, like all people are amazing, gathered at Ahipau here on Waiheke to really consider this question: how do we protect and regenerate Waiheke's marine environment? You'll see on the list on the side that these people came with lots of different voices and lots of different ideas, and together they used these principles to embody their behaviour. Complete commitment to biculturalism. Yep. Fred was there, he's nodding away. And a lot of you online were there as well, so you'll be nodding too. That focus on the whole system, that it's really, really silly actually, and unfortunately a lot of our legislation does this silly, when you just look at little parts of a system. We need to look at the whole lot and the holistic nature of it. We're focusing on what we have in common, and so therefore where we can go in the future, rather than getting bogged down on all the things that we disagree on. It's not wearing rose-tinted glasses. We recognise there's a whole lot of stuff you do disagree on, and you lean into that, lean into those bits. When you're feeling uncomfortable, often means you're making progress, don't you reckon, Fred?
Always.
Always, always. Self-management, nice segue. Got to always look after yourself. Be kind, be respectful, treat others the way you treat yourselves, and then you'll be fit enough to collaborate. If you haven't got that stuff, you need to go and work on yourself before you can step into the collaborative way of working. And to, where possible, and this is a journey we're all on, to get as much knowledge from the different ways of thinking. What are these 3 ways that we mostly focus on, Fred? See if you've been listening.
Me in it, aren't you?
Mātauranga.
All right.
All right. Citizen science, which is, just what we know from learning. And what was that other one? You said it was
flash science.
Flash science, exactly. I mean, I look forward to the day where we don't have to distinguish the three, where we can just say all knowledge. But the reality is we've allowed ourselves to get a bit mired down on the flash science, which is really, really useful stuff, but it's not enough in itself. So 76 people using these principles landed unanimously, and I find that a hard word to say, on these 9 commitments. And I'm really excited about hearing the presentations we've got today and how they're going to really demonstrate for us which of these commitments their work is contributing to. And I've actually been jotting down, and I'll talk about this at the end of it, as every speaker has been going, I've been making ticks for which ones are they contributing to. And I'm excited to report already that we're really covering the circle. So without further ado, we're about to move into our 6 presentations for this session. A wee reminder to the presenters that the aim is to present for 5 minutes. And when you're coming near to the end of that time, you'll get the hint that you've gone over the 5 and you're moving into a little bit more. You see how when you speed and you're allowed to go a little bit over? You're allowed to go a little bit over. And when you know that, Fred and I will turn our video on. So when you see our mugs, you know that it's time to be closing off. And as I said before, tip of the iceberg, exciting stuff, and I can't wait. And Fred's going to introduce you to the first person.
Kia ora no tātou, our first speaker for our last session this afternoon, Janine Clarkin, one of my whanaunga here on the island. She's here to talk to us about the Blue Art on Show and also the art mural space here in Oneroa on the wall of Waiheke Dive. So, ngā mihi kia koutou, ngā mihi e te whanaunga, no mai hara mai.
You just set her up. You've got slides? I'll just leave it right then.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui kia koutou I tēnei ahi he tino tāhua kei waho, ahua makariri, but ahua pai. So I'm here to talk to you about the mural project, which is one of the tiriti placements in our 9 commitments. One of my goals in this is to make Māori more visible on Waiheke. So thankfully we have the support of a local business, a diving company that has a beautiful space just as you enter into Oneroa village. And so we're planning to collaborate with well-known international artist Ari Vandershoot and local mana whenua rangatahi and local rangatahi who'll collaborate together in a process that we're working out. It's really awesome. We've got the support of marine education initiatives to help in the collaborative process, which we will be able to come up with a beautiful imagery that will tell stories of our community in the Moana and enhance our Māori presence as well as our just environmental passion throughout the village and Waiheke Island. We hope from this imagery that people will be inspired and see what possibilities they can contribute to, and just as a reminder on an everyday basis that we are the Moana and the Moana is us. And just so this is a great opportunity if you're got tamariki or mukapuna that are creative and would like to participate in this project. We'll be having a get-together on July the 7th with the artists and also with some of our comms team to come up with some imagery that we'll be enjoying to look at for the rest of our lives, because it'll be on that wall. That's the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about. But if you're around on the island in the next month, we also have a exhibition at Waiheke Community Art Gallery, which has a whole lot of responses to the Moana, not only Waiheke, but the whole of Aotearoa. We've got an amazing amount of artists that have works on display and whose works will no doubt inspire the tamariki that will be participating in this project. I don't have a clock, so I don't know how long that is.
Keep going.
Oh, keep going. Okay. I got some notes here. You know, more about just the mural itself will be, as I said, on the dive shop as you're coming through Ocean View Road into the village. And we hope it's a place where you can stop and just take note of what we're doing. Within the project, just collaborating with the mana whenua, Ngāti Pāwa, and there's also Ngāi Tai and Ngāti Maru who are on the island that will create together to ensure that our treaty partnership goals are being met and shared. Yeah.
So, I mean, can I ask a couple of questions? So we've got time. So I'm really interested. So, you know, you've been on the island for a long time. What has it meant for you, the Waiheke Marine Project? Like, what, as it's rolled out, what does it mean for you personally?
Just like, we all live here, we all live on the island, we like go to town and back, but for me, we're like surrounded by sea, but then we kind of, it's just because it's there, we kind of ignore it until I kind of, and when I was invited to come on this program, I was like, then I just look at it and I go for a swim, and I never really thought much deeper. So being in this project means I've had a chance to have a bit of a deeper dive into what's below the eye level of just the beautifulness of the top level, and just some more of the workings and ways that we can help replenish the Moana. So I was really pleased about the rāhui, that we were able to put down a rāhui that was so well supported within the community. And then with the rāhui being on, there's some future tools or things that we can put in process, like the Coda project and the mussel project, and there's also the kelp gardening that's just happening to give points of participation for a variety of people.
Fantastic. So, I mean, that's what we've been doing and how it's felt for you. Can you imagine 5 years from now? What do you think will be going on? Do you think we would have made a difference?
Oh, we'd hope to have made a difference, because that's the goal. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be just sitting around here wasting our time. Yeah. So, yeah.
What will that look like, do you think, and feel like?
Well, the demise that I've seen in the last 15 years, I've been able to sort of expect to see a rise in, you know, the quality of the water and the amount of kai moana available, and whether we're allowed to eat it yet, but at least it'll be there. You know, might not have grown, they might not have grown in that short period of time, but hopefully.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, well, thank you. Have you got any more tips? Last tips, really, because like you know what it is to live on Waiheke. Well, if you were to meet someone who was wanting to come and visit, what would you say to them about caring for the marine environment and what they need to know?
Oh, it's probably too much off the top of my head. But probably my other greatest thing, aside from the Moana, is the amount of rubbish we're consuming, and how you think it leaves. Once it's left your hand, where do you think it goes, and where is the way? Absolutely. And that was great hearing that from Ella, the high school student earlier, and she was very much talking about waste. Yeah. Thank you very much, Janine. It was so awesome. And then we'll move into our next one. So Rosemary, I hope you're at the ready. Sorry guys, it's always climbing over our cords and things here. So it's a great pleasure now to introduce Rosemary, who's going to talk about the work that they've been doing down the eastern end of Waiheke. For all of those who visit and live and love Waiheke, it's an unusual shape for an island. You know, it's long, there's got real distinct differences. The eastern end and the western end and the north and south are very different. So we welcome you, Rosemary. We'll turn off our screen share and bring on yours, and the screen is yours.
You want this?
You're right there, Rosemary. You've been up to, here we go. Rosemary, you might need to unmute.
Okay, off. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's all good to go.
Oh, cool. Kia ora koutou ko tōku ingoa. I'm involved and continue to be involved with the Future Search Hui, and I'm also involved as a resident at the bottom end, or eastern end, as we often are referred to. I just wanted as a starting point to give you a little bit of a background. Over the last 9-10 months, we've been establishing a community group with the principal focus, or the original focus, has really been coming out of the emergency response requirement, because we are, as you can see, the eastern end, and I'm just throwing it up with my cursor, we're sort of in this area of the island, which is quite a long way from the other end where the most population is. So emergency response group was really born out of a community consultation through the board. But from that, we're certainly wanting to develop more than just a response group. So the actual, to give you a little bit of a feel for the geography and where the eastern end is, it's mainly a rural setting, a lot of beautiful bush, mature bush, a lot of kauri. We've got the marine reserve, as I've circled here, to give you an idea. So we really run from Oropu right through to Manawar and then over the hills. I've just given you a little bit of a feel too for the pictorial side. This is taken from the Trig. So you're looking over to Ponui, and this whole area here is basically looking towards Coromandel. This shot here is Passage Rock, and this is pretty much the Timatuku Marine Reserve, bordered by council. And over here, just to give you some connection, is Rob Fenwick's land. So that gives you a bit of an understanding. And our property is just this along here. We have 20 acres that goes along the Marine Reserve at the bottom end. So we're very much a distributed community. Timatuku and Oropu in this area has a huge history, rich in European settlement and Maori settlement. We have significant environmental features, what with the Marine Reserve, as I'm pointing out, the Timatuku Scenic Reserve, of which 55 hectares contains a lot of large podocarps, which still stand, kauri stand there. And really it's quite varied. But I guess one of the main things that we're quite keen on moving to, and I'll just move the cursor. Whoops, it seems to be, hang on, I don't think I'm doing too well here. Whoops. Just wanted to move down to the next slide. It's not behaving itself, just 1 second.
I think what we're hearing is a fantastic example of pulling on collective wisdom and getting support there. It's really great to see that vision, isn't it?
Totally.
No, it won't go.
So we're good to go with this, Rosemary, and we're really appreciating you showing the map to give us that bird's eye view of.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to get to the next slide.
Right.
I think my IT skills have gone.
You just hit
Gone up the window.
hit the arrow right.
Oh, I had the wrong place. Okay. So just to give you a bit of a background, the origins, this was really progressed from the board, opening up the Waiheke plan to us as a group at the bottom end. And we actually have a real desire to build a group firstly around that resilience and preparedness for many emergencies that we often get with flooding and trees across the road and fire. But we also really were very keen to, and had a great desire and still, to strengthen our community networks through social events, having a bit of fun along the way, but principally also community decision making, which Miranda's referred to throughout the webinars. Very strong self-management is what we're about. And we have an amazing group of people at the bottom end who have huge level of skill set, which until you sit down and have a beer and a sandwich with them, you don't really understand exactly what skills we've got. So it's all about preparedness for us and responding to environmental change. So what we've done is we've had a couple of picnics, which is always a good way to start the kororu. have a place name at the moment. We haven't made this decision by any means, but just to give you a bit of an idea, we're looking at the Waiheke Eastern Community Association. We've had a couple of huis at the bottom end Stockyard Reserve, which is wonderful because it sits right at the head of the Marine Reserve. We're looking at establishing and starting this process. You can see this photograph here. Julie Kens and I have been doing a lot of work and working with the community at trying to establish little villages. So we had this huge big map that I managed to get from Fiona Gregory at the council. So we're looking at establishing small, close neighbourhood groups, telephone trees, pooling resources. We've got a strong connection with the ham radio team on the island. And we've developed a newsletter, and we're looking at community advocacy because we've been working with the board quite a bit on this, and obviously education. So it's more than just the emergency side. We're really keen to try and introduce a lot broader objectives and visions for ourselves. And really, this is where we're sort of wanting to go. I've touched on the society being developed, which is what we're working on at the minute. The response plan is really critical because that's an important aspect. But we're looking very much to develop stories to share and learn about who's come before us. And that's both European and Māori, but there's some fantastic history down the bottom end of where it was the first end of the island to be populated. So there's an awful lot to share. As a community, we're very strong on valuing and preserving the environmental and history of the bottom end. Also providing, the society will provide a network for the community advocacy, obviously social activities and education. And we've been working with, and there's a lot of work that's gone into dark sky. We haven't been directly involved with that, but we've certainly been enjoying the outcome of their work and their hard mahi on getting that underway. Pest control, and the big thing really, the Marine Reserve Experience is another group that come down and do an introduction for people to get out onto the Marine Reserve and learn a little more about it by way of education. So some of the principles and a lot of the principles we're talking about with the hui, the Future Search hui, certainly we touch on. You know, we're all about learning and the Waiheke way, but principally, I think also just using our own self-sustainability and ability to be accountable, because we are a long way from anyone else on the island at the bottom end. But we're a very resilient bunch. And we have a little mascot by the name of Louis, and he's a pretty cool member of the whānau. But just in conclusion, it's all about looking forward and working alongside the group that we're talking to today. We're very positive about what we can do at the bottom end. There's a lot of good skills, and we just want to be able to share and utilise those with everyone else. So, and apologies, araha mai on the blunders on the IT side.
Oh, kia ora, Rosemary, what an awesome presentation, and it was awesome to see firstly that map, but also that shot looking over the land. That was awesome. Awesome to hear about your group's preparedness to respond to environmental changes and emergencies. The education and community advocacy part of your presentation was awesome to hear, and also that you're keen to share the history of what you refer to the bottom end. And if I could just make a quick suggestion on your name, I saw its acronym was WICA, but could we not just call you guys the EastEnders?
Well,
or has that already been taken?
No, actually, Fred, that's certainly one of the ideas. It's there's plenty. Bottom enders is sort of considered to be a standard, but we come in all guises. So yeah, we'll take your suggestion on board. Thank you, Fred.
Oh, kia ora, Rosemary. Thank you.
So can you stop your screen share? Thanks, Rosemary.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Graham Moore, who, after my blunder earlier, I can finally redeem myself. Graham is new to the Waiheke Marine Project, and he'll be talking to us today about land care efforts near Matiatia.
Cool.
So kia ora, Graham, welcome.
Kia ora, Miranda, Fred, and the team. Hey, thanks so much for having us on. I don't feel so bad now that we're not the only ones on an early part of the journey like Rosemary. But just a little bit of quick background. I mean, what brought us here to find the Waiheke Marine Project. We're a group of residents who want to seriously scale up what we're doing in terms of conservation, pest and weed control. And we realized, I guess, how little we knew despite our efforts that we've been making for some considerable time. So we've started to look for some inspiration and some guidance, and fortunately stumbled across the Marine Reserve Project. And I do apologize for being late to the table, but we're so excited to know that there's somebody here doing a real job coordinating the community. And the last thing, of course, before I whip into my presentation, we've learned that what we do on the land has a huge effect on what happens in the Gulf, and that we have a real responsibility to look after that as much as anything. So I guess recent issues with Friends of Hauraki Gulf putting in an application made us realize we really needed to understand more about what the community wanted. So may I just give you a little bit of background about us?
Absolutely. You can do what, the floor is yours as long as you keep within the time, Mr. Graham.
Okay. So this is where we are on the north west end of the peninsula. This was part of the Matiatia Estates residence subdivision that was put together in the late, just before the millennium. And the group I'm talking about is within that little red arrowed area, the end of Delamore Drive. Let's see if I can, there we go. Okay, I'll just put you guys out of the picture for a minute. Okay, so affectionately known as MERG. This was the Northwest Waiheke area about 1997. And as I said, this group of 15 of us were fortunate enough to be involved with the subdivision. And as part of the subdivision, there was a significant amount of land around all the coastal area that was apportioned by the developers to dock. This is a little bit of a view of what it looked like at the turn of the century. That's just after the road went in. You can see that it was obviously farmland and very much suffering from our usual drought situations, which have only got significantly worse, and a large amount of erosion as well. So another view of the bay. What happened here as part of the subdivision, what kicked it off was approximately 5,000 trees were mandated as part of the resource consent that had to be planted across the entire peninsula. And this has had a massive effect in terms of reducing the erosion and dramatically slowing the sediment gulf and runoff into the Gulf. This is a little bit of a brief overview of the initial planting, which obviously we're all very grateful for, but it was very much a basic exercise. And since then, a lot of the landowners have put in a massive amount of work into specific specimen planting, some of them putting up to 1,500, 2,000 or more plants on the area of their land. We've also instigated a weed and pest control program, again, doing it to the best of our knowledge. And another reason for us wanting to get involved with you as a community, we need to learn more. And even today, I've obviously learned a heap about what we can do, and I will be reaching out to people like Paul Dyson and others to try and make sure that we don't try and reinvent the wheel on any of our efforts. We also manage regular rabbit shoots and baiting. And again, this has had a significant effect on the area. Now, here's the beauty of it all. You're now seeing a part of this peninsula that has got massive regrowth from that planting, and we're now enjoying real enhancement in terms of bird life. No doubt some of those birds are immigrants from Turi, Motuhi and around the Gulf, but we see ourselves as having a real responsibility now to help make this really work. So that's really it from me. I mean, our next stage from our point of view is that we want to continue trying to research and engage and learn as much as we can to align ourselves with you good folk at Waiheke Marine Project and all the other partners. The important thing for us is to be part of the community and make sure we can continue to help everybody. So that's it from me. Does that
Fantastic, Graham. And as you were talking to the others in this incredible work, did you have a chat? What needs do you have? I mean, I hear that you're really up for learning off others. Are there specific needs that you have in mind?
Well, I think the big thing is we see that we're only a small part of the whole community, and especially that end peninsula. So we want to reach out to the rest of our neighbours around that whole area, which, interesting enough, encompasses a lot of the that subdivision that was put together around 2000. But if we do that, we've got to go out to them with very sensible strategic programs regarding pest and weed control. We've got an issue that it's no sense in us working on our properties if we can't work with DOC as well. Mm-hmm. So even to the extent of seeing if we can assist DOC with more moth plant control, more pest control, it's got to be a total exercise for the peninsula.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I've got to say big thanks. Anything inspire you from that? Because
just the change that's happened to that space since the turn of the millennia. Awesome to hear that there are so many willing people out there to do the work, and that's something that some of our central and local government don't understand. Is just how much work is needed and how people are needed to do that. So thank you, Graham.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Fred, to have a neighbourhood where every single one of the residents works together, well, I think we're very fortunate, and we realise that most of us are not doing it really for us. We're doing it for our children and our children's children and our neighbours' children and the whole community area. So it's super important that we work in a collaborative manner.
Fantastic. You've really embodied a lot of the values, and the principles that we've talked about, which just goes to show that none of this is rocket science. It just makes sense. Yeah. And I just want to thank you for a couple of shout outs that you gave during your presentation, because it's really neat to hear them reflected from people who haven't been involved in the innards of it. You did a shout out for the sort of the coordination. In a sense, I think what's going on with the Waiheke Marine Project / movement, it's not a control space. It's a real amplifying. It's like saying a term we use a lot is and that, because you all need it, right? We all need to be doing this work, and so this movement or project is operating as a backbone, and which is really different. So it's not a single organization. It's like, boom, this is the plan and we'll all go do it. It's working it together. So thank you for noticing that. And I thought it was also kind of cool. At one point, you called it the Marine Reserve Project. And I think that's really neat that you brought that up, because there has been a bit of swirl around on Waiheke Island about marine reserves. So marine reserves are one tool of a way to look after the marine environment, to protect and regenerate. And we've talked about the 9 future search commitments. One of them is called protection tools. And so marine reserves are absolutely in that kete. And, we're excited at that. We now believe that the project's at a phase where enough support's building. The fact that it's attracting people like yourself, Graham, there's enough support and trust that people can come in and have difficult conversations about where you would put something like a marine reserve, right? And so it's very much at that phase, but also taken on with all principles. We'll be looking at the whole island. We'll be very much guided by Ngāti Paoa and other mana whenua. So that is the phase we're at. So I think it's really exciting. And I think a lot with collaboration. You go slow to go fast. And people have been very frustrated because they've got the idea, they've had it for ages, let's just put it in. We've gone slow-ish. It has only been 7 months since Future Search. It's not that slow, really. But we've now got this trust relationship going. And I think we're going to find that we have MPAs in place, including reserves and ahui. I I would say within 18 months. Oh, it's like, that's a bit of a guess, isn't it? But I really think it's going to happen. So thank you, Graham, for introducing those topics for us, and look forward to having a lot more to do with you in the future. And after you've signed off, can you go and do the Q&A? So people have been sending you typed questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
And thank you for that approach where you're so willing to have different viewpoints. I think that's so crucial. We have to accept that we won't all be on the same page, but we're reading the same book.
Absolutely. Thank you, Graham. And so now I'm going to hand the rako, the stick, to our next speaker. And this is a speaker who would fulfill the prize for good neighbour. Absolute best neighbour to Waiheke, huh? From the Noises Islands. So Sue, you have got the microphone, and Karis will do the slides for you.
Well, kia ora koutou, ko Sue Noroi te toku ingoa. And hello to you, Miranda and Fred. Thanks for hosting this. And I really did enjoy that last presentation, Graham. Thank you. We are your neighbours, and we're connected by Tīkapa Moana, so it makes sense that we work together. And since the Future Search, we've had some pretty amazing opportunities to do that. And I just wanted to highlight one or two of those today. So in December, we were fortunate to be able to have rangatahi from Waiheke and from urban Auckland come to Otata. And they were joined by Dr. Nick Shears from the Lee Research Laboratory from the Lee Marine Reserve, also Tim Haggett and Kelsey Miller. And it was a chance for everyone to reconnect, to explore the island and understand the connections between the land and the sea. But the biggest point of the day was to be able to share Kelsey's kina research project with the rangatahi. So what they did was they collected a bunch of kina from a kina barren, and they collected more from an area which was really covered in kelp. And they weighed them, we broke them open, we had a look at what was inside, we weighed the roe or the gonads, and tasted them, which was really important, of course. And it was really amazing to see the difference between the kina that came from the barren and the kina that came from the healthy area. The rangatahi went out on one of the boats. They used drop cameras in the water so they could really see what was going on down there. And it was a really hot day. For future trips, we definitely would want to incorporate snorkeling and swimming for anyone that came out. But it was a great day of learning for all of us. One thing that I really noticed was that the rangatahi from Waiheke had such a clear advantage over the rangatahi who'd come from urban areas in their understanding of place. And you know, if you don't know a place, then you can't care. And so we're keen to do more of those trips to be able to reconnect rangatahi to place. Over the summer, there were a couple more trips which were organised by Bianca Ranson with members with whānau from Piratahi Marae. And the first one was a wonderful day. It took us 2 hours to walk around Otata, which is actually quite a long time, because there was just so much interest in sharing knowledge about the land, about the trees, about the seabirds. That was really cool. The second one was this amazing day with Ramari Stewart. I haven't heard everything that's been presented today, but I'd be surprised if she hasn't been mentioned, because I know that she's been on Waiheke for some time. I think she's gone back to the west coast of the South Island now, but just being able to speak to that lady about her knowledge, her interest in everything, and her questioning of everything, and how it was connected, made you realize why she's where she is today. And to be able to share my knowledge with her, but much more importantly, to be able to hear what she knew, just completely opened my mind to new possibilities, things that I'd never thought of, the way things connect. So that was a fabulous opportunity. anyway, and I hope that everyone on Waiheke's been able to benefit from some of her matauranga and her knowledge. Katina, Tom and I were invited to a wananga at Piratahi Marae in April, which was led by Ngāti Paua whānau, and that was just a fantastic honour to be able to present there and share what we were doing on the noises with Ngāti Paua and our aspirations for the future. And from that wananga, we had the opportunity to invite Ngāti Paua whānau over to Ōtata in May, and we were lucky. We got away with the weather. It was late in the season, but it was just such a fantastic opportunity to enable whānau to reconnect with the islands and see what they are today. We spent time walking around the islands and looking at the connections between land and sea. There's nothing like being able to look at the seabird burrows and where they're placed, and the wetapanga and the geckos to really get a full understanding of how everything connects together. And Louise Fury from Auckland Museum was there, and she's been doing the archaeological work on the islands. Actually, I forgot to mention there was more archaeological work carried out in March on the midden on Ōtata, and that's so significant because that midden is at least 700 years old, and there are 5 layers of occupation there. So not only does it tell us about the people who came before us, but it gives us a really, it's a living library. It's a 700-year-old library that gives us information about this, the fish species, the shellfish, the seabirds, storm events, what the vegetation looked like. So once all of that data has been analysed, the data which was collected, which was considerable, once it's been analysed, we'll be able to share the findings from that, so that can really help guide all of us. If we know what we had, then of course we can know what we can aspire to when we are looking to restore Tīkapa Moana. And then finally, I think to be able to share that knowledge with Ngāti Paua on the islands in May was fantastic. And Tim Haggett was able to share a lot about the marine environment and what we learned, the matauranga. That was a really on the ground example. Last point, with you may wonder why I ticked the healthy waters, but I think if we could protect a good area of the marine environment around the noises, we have the opportunity to restore those huge shellfish beds that are there. That in turn may provide the opportunity for spawn and spat to settle in the areas that you've protected around Waiheke. And those shellfish will do an amazing job with restoration and for cleaning the water themselves. So that's the connection with the clean water bit. Thank you very much, and we look forward to going forward.
Kia ora, Sue, that was awesome. Just a couple of notes I made during your presentation. Working together as neighbours, this whole people connecting with people theme has been running throughout the day, and that's just another good example of that building capability of rangatahi.
Mm-hmm.
What an awesome opportunity it is for those of us of Ngāti Paua, and I see Ngāti Whanaunga as well. So yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome opportunity for them to build their capability, but also to reconnect to those parts of our traditional boundaries that we haven't had the opportunity to go to for over 100 years. So thank you so much for that, Sue. Another thing that has been mentioned a few times today is Ramari Stewart and the expertise that she has offered to not only the Waiheke Marine Project, but everything that's going on in Tīkapa, really. So yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that as well. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Cool. And our next speaker, Rosa Thompson. She comes from the Sustainable Business Network, and she will be talking about harnessing the power of business for wetland restoration. So kia ora, Rosa, welcome.
Kia ora, thank you for having me. Cool, kia ora everyone. So my name is Rosa and I'm working at the Sustainable Business Network, focusing on the projects team. So just a bit of background for those of you that don't know about the Sustainable Business Network. So we are New Zealand's largest sustainable business organisation. So we're a network of over 500 businesses working towards systems change in the areas of climate, moving towards a circular economy, and also regenerating nature. So at SBN, we provide training, tools, resources to businesses to build that capability around sustainability. So one of our key initiatives is the Million Metres Streams project. So essentially it's a crowdfunding platform that provides an opportunity to landowners and community groups to access large-scale funding and resources. So it can enable waterway restoration around the country. So to date, since 2014, we've worked with over 70 projects around the country, and that has enabled over 70 kilometres of waterways to be restored to date. In terms of the funding from that, we have raised over 2.8 million to date, and that has been through crowdfunding. A lot of individual donors and businesses have supported the work and the projects. We've also got a government fund through the Jobs for Nature from the Department of Conservation. We got granted $2.5 million, and that has enabled us to offer employment opportunities around the country post-COVID. Cool. So for Waiheke specifically, Million Metres has supported 6 projects to date. So that has been working with various community groups on the island. So one of those, Piratahi Marae. We've also been working with the Waiheke Resources Trust, who we heard from earlier. So the Waiheke Resources Trust, we have been fundraising with them since 2017. Sorry. And that has enabled waterway restoration on Rangihoa wetlands. So with the Waiheke Resources Trust, we've also been able to fund them employment opportunities through the Jobs for Nature funding. So over 30 jobs have been created on the island, and it's been amazing to see the impact that that's had throughout COVID, both for the individuals that were able to gain employment, but also just seeing the Waiheke Resources Trust being able to sort of amplify the work that they're doing on the island. We have also been granted funding through GIFT from Foundation North, and that has enabled us to focus on kind of the land-based pollutants and the key issues happening on the land, and reducing that impact flowing into the Hauraki Gulf. So over the last 3 years, we've been working within our network, looking at reducing the sediment, heavy metals, and plastics from entering the Gulf. So we actually hosted a webinar series at the end of last year, having some amazing speakers who could talk to kind of these key issues and what we can do to help. So that is really just a brief overview. Obviously, we've got a lot more information on the website. We're currently fundraising with 3 projects on Waiheke that are actively fundraising at the moment and need the support for this year's planting season. So you can head to millionmeters.org.nz if you'd like to learn more about the projects and donate, and yeah, find out a bit more about the work that we do. So yeah, thank you so much for having me today. It's been amazing to learn more about the work happening on and around the island. Kia ora.
Oh, thank you, Rosa. It's really, really inspiring to hear how you've been able to harness all the different interests and plug into a decent sized fund, right? And then that boom, big, the ripple effect on being able to have all those local jobs.
Yeah.
So I'm about to put you on the spot slightly. So just
okay.
breathe, because that's what we do.
Yeah,
Fred knows I've been doing it to him the whole time. Given that you're in this world of sustainable business, so you're hooked closer to the business side. You would have seen one of our 9 commitments is the circular economy.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested in any comments. I won't totally just ask you a direct question. Any comments you've got about that in the marine environment? Because we have found that plugging into resources for marine seems to be harder than it is for on the land. So have you got any comments? Maybe you've heard discussions within the network about that, how to go about it?
In terms of getting business involvement?
Yeah.
Well, I think in the space, businesses are becoming far more aware of these issues. So it's been about raising awareness, which is what one of our sort of key focuses has been. And just seeing a lot more businesses are coming on board at the moment and just keen to help out as they can. So I definitely think that's one of the key ways that we can get our network involved is, raising the platform where we can, showcase the amazing work that's been happening around the marine environment and just giving them that way to sort of get involved, which is what,
Yeah, so raising awareness, and also, I mean, you must have a lot of members of the Sustainable Businesses, right? You've got business.
Yeah, so it's a network of over 500 businesses.
So you would know what drives the businesses. So it'd be really interesting, what type of things do you think businesses are looking for when they're wanting to show their ethic of care?
Yeah, and I think it definitely ranges between businesses. So with over 500 businesses in the network, you get, a vast range of the why they're part of it. But a lot of them are wanting to, get involved in these key great causes that are happening. So, I mean, between small to large organizations, we've got a fantastic network of those that want to get involved.
Fantastic. Well, you can tell them that, I know it's going to be backwards to you guys, but our supporter sticker, we are struggling. We would love to not have a plastic sticker, right? But to just put it out to your 500 member network, don't you think, Fred? That
Absolutely.
We are a great spot to invest in. We're showing a new way of operating. It's taking, circular economy is where we're at. So thank you very, very much, Rosa. And we'll say ciao to you as we head into our very last presenter for the 3-hour webinar. Amazing. So it is a great privilege to be introducing our last presenter. And I want to do a shout out for him as well. This is Mark Russell. Because Mark donated, nice segue from investment from business to everyone investing. And one of the things that's come through the Waiheke Marine Project is people really see its joy and want to help. And that can mean financially as well as all the most amazing in-kind work. We had an example at the beginning where a gorgeous couple, Anna and Tony Bounds, it was early days. And they were like, you're going to need some money to be able to pull this off. And so they sponsored $1,000 to give someone to pay someone to write grants. That 1,000 quickly turned into 10. It was just like, boom, this is amazing. And so a similar line, when Mark heard that we wanted to do this webinar, he's like, so I tried to do an Irish accent, Mark. That would be dangerous. He sponsored the cost of the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure for this. So thank you for that, Mark. And I'll now hand over for you to take away your Kelp Gardener's spiel.
Thanks a million, Miranda. That's a very generous introduction. Thank you. Kia ora te whānau. Really has struck me this afternoon listening to everyone else talk about the work they're doing on the land and in the ocean to kind of contribute to the kind of the health of our marine environment. It really does feel like a family. So it's been quite a lovely experience to kind of listen and absorb that all day. I'm going to talk briefly about the Kelp Gardeners project that is a citizen science project that myself and a few other enthusiastic people started off a bit more than 2 years ago. with the intention of learning a little bit about what could we do about the kind of ever encroaching kina barrens, and could we learn anything about kind of how to regenerate kelp and seaweed growth. In the Ireland environment, we have a tiny little spot outside Enclosure Bay that we've been working on over that period of time. So I'll just sort of describe what we've been doing and maybe what we've learned a little bit, and what's hopefully coming next with some moving kind of entertainment. See this video. Yeah, here we go. So, the project a couple of years ago with, actually I realized now 3 different kinds of knowledge that were mentioned by Fred, I think, earlier. So we started off with that mostly on the kind of lead. About measuring environment and now done. So as well as Tim Haggett's input, we also visited with the committee up here at Marae here on Ireland, get their support and actually participation of some people from the Marae in the early stages of the project, which was great. And we also spoke with people from Ngāti Paua to make sure that we had their kind of support and encouragement for the project, which we got as well. So we had Mata Rongamari, flash science, as we talked about earlier, and then the citizen science kind of input, which is ourselves in the water, kind of from the start. We didn't do any of it particularly well, and I'm going to chat about that as we go through and what we kind of learned. We have a small site that I mentioned out near Enclosure Bay where we do regular dives and video survey the seabed to see how many kina are there and what the kelp life is like. And we collect up kina within the kind of quota management system daily limits, and we bring that kina ashore, and people on the island come and collect it from us as Moana, which is brilliant. So there's a whole kind of circular aspect to the project. And we just recently had a survey done by Tim Haggett after 2 years after we started. And he hasn't written up his kind of formal results yet, but the indications are that we've been able to kind of contribute to a lot more life coming back into the area, that we've been kind of collecting the kina and getting the numbers back down so to something like what they should be, or something like in balance. One of the other interesting aspects about the project was, certainly in the early stages, it was really just a few small people trying to learn what we could do as we went along. At a certain point, the kind of marine project came into existence, and it's been very good for kelp gardeners, that like a bigger organization that's a lot more connected with many different people and ideas on the island has come into being. In a funny kind of way, it's given the project a kind of home, if you like. So we started as a small thing with a small number of people involved, and then we've found a comfortable way to kind of fit into the overall marine project. It's sort of stretched us out a little bit and taken the project maybe beyond where it would have been otherwise, but it's been kind of very beneficial as a learning exercise as well. So I'm really grateful for that, and it's and that continues. Just about the video, it's not telling any story in particular, other than you can see that there's plenty of kina all over the seabed, even amongst the kelp, but also just the exquisite beauty of the kelp itself, moving and kind of drifting and floating through the water and the waves. Is one of the most kind of gratifying things about the project, is to have the opportunity to be in the water so much and bring people in the water too as well. So how do we align with the 9 kind of agreed commitments from Future Search? Clearly the strongest one is Maori, and we've been interested from the start in how can we help kind of contribute to the regeneration of the marine environment from what we're learning. And then education is another kind of big pillar to what we're doing. So we have people coming in the water all the time that are really moved by what they see and what they learn. There's so much new information being discovered by people as they come out with us. This person's on the screen at the moment. And actually a huge benefit for us all has been what people share with each other as well. So it's been a really educational kind of project for all of us involved. And perhaps down the road, as the integrated management part of the Waiheke Marine Project kind of comes more into being, there may be a place for some of the activities that we're doing within Kelp Gardeners, or something that we learn from it, and that will fit in there as well. So that's kind of our connection with the overall project. Probably the biggest area of learning, though, hasn't been in the water at all. It's been around engagement with mana whenua. I started off knowing very little about that at all, and have, with the rest of the project members too, been learning about it as we've gone, sometimes learning very slowly and sometimes learning quickly. But that's been another amazing aspect to it all as well. Like Paul Dyson mentioned earlier on about the Mawhitipana Reserve kind of regeneration project that he's looking after, we've gotten to a decision point about our project, the Kelp Gardeners project, what to do next. We've spent half our funding around about now, and we have about half of it left to go. I should have mentioned actually that GIFT, the Gulf Innovation Fund, together, we're very generous kind of encouragers and funders of the project right from the start. In fact, for about 2 years before the start. Rather than deciding ourselves within the project, basically we've asked Ngāti Porou to have a look at our impact report, what we've done so far, some ideas we have about what might happen next, but actually we really want their kind of guidance and suggestion and leadership, if that's what it is. So it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of the kind of conversations that are going to happen around what would Ngāti Porou like to happen next with the project, and how can we help kind of bring that about. So that's the project in a nutshell. The ask, I suppose, that I would have from the Marine Project and anyone listening is just to get involved. If you're interested in getting into the water and seeing what's there, come out on a trip with us. We have a Facebook page. If you just search Kelp Gardeners on Facebook, you'll find us there. Follow that, and we do regular postings about what's happening. And maybe the very last thing I'll mention is we've just kind of published or issued an impact report describing in more detail than this 5 minutes what's been happening over the last 2 years and what might happen next. So you can find a link to that on the Facebook page, or just get in touch with me and I'll very happily send you a copy. And I think that is everything. I'm not sure if I managed to stay within 5 minutes or not.
Yeah. Kia ora, Mark. Thank you for that presentation. One thing that dawned on me throughout your presentation was a comment that one of our presenters earlier touched on, Janine, at the end of her presentation, was it's nice to be able to look out and see the beautiful ocean, but nobody really understands what's happening until you get underneath and see what's going on down there. So thank you very much for taking us there and showing us that, Mark.
Beautiful, thank you.
Your last comments?
Okay, a couple of comments to wrap up the day for me. I mentioned earlier, a strong theme throughout the day was we heard about biculturalism, but it's really multiculturalism that's been happening here, and we've seen it throughout all the presenters, the different presenters, where they're from, and also thinking back to Future Search as well. So the nature of the Waiheke Marine Project is awesome. Reconnecting whānau, hapu and iwi to place, that's a major thing for me personally, but also for all of those whānau that were able to get out on those trips and go over to places like Watata. Yeah, just what an amazing opportunity is for us at this time. Active kaitiakitanga and stewardship, so building that capability of rangatahi as well. All of these things show that we are sticking to our #1 goal of giving effective partnership through Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So that was probably the big standout things for me today, as well as the amazing amount of support that we've got both here on the island and far and wide. And we can see that just from that slide on all the sponsors and our endorsements. So yeah, that's the day in a nutshell from me.
Thank you, Fred. Fred, just been amazing. Absolute heaven co-facilitating with Fred today. I won't go on long because we've hit our hour, 4:30. But I just want to note, I was, as we were listening to all those amazing presentations, I was doing a tick, as I said before, for each of the commitments that the various presenters were talking about. And it was really, really interesting to hear just how well we're tracking. But to simulate, earlier on, Fred and I said it felt like we were on a kids show when you say bye. So I'm simulating a competition show. So in third place would have to be our circular economy. I think, we weren't able to voice as much about that today. And it's not saying that it's not going on out there, focusing on resilient businesses, but it's something we could up the love. And third equal was with effective legislation. And again, so, it's probably fair. We know that the legislation surrounding our marine environment is not effective. So we need to pour some more love into that and really welcome government departments to be participating within these places. We all need to work together. Kind of third equal, but up a little bit would be clean water. I definitely had a few in clean water, but could pour a bit more love. And I think it was amazing hearing all the land care spaces, because of course that's directly clean water. But I look forward, hopefully we'll host another one of these showcases perhaps at the end of the year. And it would be great to have more on water people, so boaties, divers, people who are really in the water, who are seen up front. When you talk to any spearfisher, they're really environmentally oriented because they're so close. So it'd be great to get more of that from inside water view. In second place, we had a couple of there. We had the Waiheke Way, really staunch. There was it real came through, didn't it? That resilience. We're going to do it. And Dean referred to Tuesday being the announcement of the government response strategy to sea change. So what's going to happen to implement sea change? And Waiheke won't be in it in the sense of MPAs, but I don't think that's a problem. I think the Waiheke Way is showing it's going to happen anyway, and then it'll be great for the government to wrap around and give support to the Waiheke Way. Equal with that was protection tools, some really good references to protection tools, and even that scary, I put a time frame on it afterwards. I was like, why did I do that? We've just, but who knows, see what we can do in 2 years, hey? Pretty exciting. And then up at the top end of the pack, very excitingly, is a combination of learning and integrated management and te tiriti. Wow, really, really cool. We're really putting our emphasis into this, and it's happening naturally, isn't it? People are just stepping into it. And top of the pack is Modi. How cool is that? Everyone is putting the efforts into regenerating Modi. And I think that's an end comment for me, and I'll hand over to Fred to close the whole webinar. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. We'll close with the karakia as we opened with one. Me inoi tātou. Tui a te rangi e tui honei, tui a te papa e tākoto ake nei, tui a te maunga e tāwharau nei, tui a ngā awa e rere atu nei, tui a te Moana tapu o Tīkapa e whakamari e nei, e rongo te pō, e rongo te ao, kia tūturu o whiti whakamaua, kia tīna, haumi e hui e tai ki e.
Happy Sunday.